missionary house.
Yeah.
Wow.
Historic neighborhood.
That's cool.
Todd, how do you say that name? Firewood?
How do I say what name?
Trocon's last name. Is it?
How do you pronounce is that your last name, Trocon? Fiawoot? Fiawoot? Uh-oh.
They could share a screen. That would.
Yeah, I think it's fine. If you guys can hear it.
They should share a screen.
I'll text her. All right, we're live on Facebook. Hi, Facebook.
Hi, Facebook. How are you?
Hello.
Thanks for joining us for a special presentation of the Veterans Breakfast Club, the Voices of Student Veterans, and we'll get started in a minute.
Yep, we have 1 minute till, what is it? D-Day, H-hour, tea time?
Take off.
Here we go. 1 minute till showtime. Showtime.
We'll call it showtime.
Showtime. Yeah. What is it? D-Day, H-hour? Oh my gosh, now I'm hearing myself on Facebook Live. Oh my gosh. I have got to shut this down. Okay.
All right, I'm going to, are we good to start?
We are good to start. 1 p.m.
All right. Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to VBC at Home Live. Thank you so much for joining us here Wednesday afternoon, July 1st. It's so good to see everyone. We have a wonderful program for you all today. So we might have some first-time viewers, and we always like to let you know that Veterans Breakfast Club is a nonprofit run from Western PA here in Pittsburgh, been around for 12 years with a mission to listen to veterans and their stories, to educate, inspire, and heal so that these pieces of living history are never forgotten. I'm joined by my lovely colleagues here today. We have Executive Director Todd DiPastino, Sean Hall, our Director of Programming, Ellie, our media producer, and Libby, our summer intern. My name is Lauren Del Ricci. I'm the Associate Director here at VBC, and it's been my pleasure to organize this program for you all today, highlighting the voices of student veterans and kind of figuring out what's going on in the landscape of higher ed today. We have some new faces from over in my hometown in New Jersey that are tuning in, and we're really glad to have them. We always like to begin our programs with the national anthem. So we'll do that. We have a few housekeeping things and we will jump right into it. So Ellie, if you don't mind queuing up that national anthem. Thank you.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the pale
was wonderful. Thank
Great
you
job, Ellie.
again to
That was
Marianne
great.
Mangini. She sent us that a couple weeks ago, and we've been religiously using it. She's a lovely voice. She's a local instructor. We're go ahead and put her info in the chat. She does music lessons here in Pittsburgh. So thank you again to Marianne Mangini. I'm going to flip it to Todd. Oh, there he is. He's down there now. To do a couple housekeeping notes. We have some events coming up we want to let you all know about. So Todd?
Thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you, Bonnie Cornish, for your compliments on my chair dancing like this. I call it the Bao Tran dance, because if you'll know, on Monday night, Bao Tran was on our program. He was a South Vietnamese Marine during the Vietnam War with a fascinating story. And I noticed that when we started our theme song, Bao just immediately started going like this, and I thought it was that's the dance. That's the only way you could do a dance here, sitting in a chair in front of Zoom. So I will tip my hat to Bao Tran and for giving me that tip. What I want to announce is that we have our VBC coffee hour tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The same Zoom address as this one. Libby or Ellie, if you wouldn't mind putting it here in the chat on the Facebook side and on the Zoom side so people could have the link. 9 a.m. It's an hour and 15 minutes of casual conversation. Always a wonderful hour of conversation and fellowship at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So please do join us if you can. And also, I want to talk about these items behind me. You can see there's at least a 30-year-old MRE. It may be more like 35-year-old MRE back there. Some lucky recipient will get that in the mail. You'll be able to open it and eat it. No, I'm just kidding. We're having a special event on Monday, July 20th at 6 p.m. It's called Dinner and a Show with MREs. For $25, we will send you an MRE, one of the 24 MRE menus that are existing today. And then at 6 p.m. on Zoom on July 20th, we will open them up, we'll heat them up, we'll eat them, we'll review them, we'll hear some stories from those who are joining us about food stories from the military, mess halls and sea rations and things like that. We will also have entertainment. We will have some musical entertainment, and we are working on a couple of special guests who will join us and share some stories. So please do. $25. It's a tiny little bitty fundraiser for the Veterans Breakfast Club, or it's really just getting together and having fun, eating some MREs. And MREs get a bad rap. And I don't think they're that bad. Libby, what would you say? What would your review of MRE? You had an MRE. What do you think?
Not bad. For something that comes in a khaki pouch, can't really complain.
It's not always the most appetizing presentation of the food, but I think it's not too bad. And certainly you guys I'm thinking of, Roland Glenn here, 96 years old. Yeah, at Okinawa, you were probably having K rations and C rations at best. And C rations for our Vietnam era, Korean War era veterans here. So I think MREs are a big step up from that, but you can be the judge. July 20th, please do join us. Ellie, if you could put the link to the Eventbrite registration in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. And thank you, Lauren, for hosting this event today.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. It's my pleasure. Really quick, one last housekeeping note. Sean, did you want to let our group know about the podcast episode for this?
Oh, of course, thanks. Yeah, we have a really wonderful podcast going on right now called Truth About War. I will put the link into the chat. We hope you could come over and join us on that website to hear our 9th episode, Ambassador Rick Barton, talk about the 42 countries that he's been to in 42 years. He's talked a little bit about the economics of the world, socioeconomic stuff, and yeah, it's some good stuff. So please join us over there.
All right, truthaboutwarpodcast.com. We'll put it in the chat. Please head over and have a listen if you have time. So again, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get our show going for today. Welcome to VBC at Home Live. We've been doing this now for 3 months. After 12 years of in-person events, everyone knows March of this year, things took a turn for the different. So we're all kind of chartering these unknown waters together. And today we decided to highlight voices of student veterans, both here locally in Pittsburgh and also from New Jersey. So welcome to our student veteran edition of VBC at Home. I thought it would be appropriate to start, by sharing with you a little bit about, my transition into higher education when I got out of the service. And I'm actually, here we go. So I went to Rowan University, and one of our guests today, actually, we share the same alma mater. Rowan University is in South Jersey. I got out of the Navy in 2003, and I truly believe that once I was out, the higher education, going to college, kept me accountable. It kind of became my anchor, pun intended, after leaving the Navy. No matter where I moved, because I moved a lot in the couple years after I left the Navy, kind of trying to figure out where I was supposed to be. No matter where I was, I kind of went to the local community college and I took a course. Because even if it was just a small bit of accountability, I used my benefits. It gave me some money to live on, and ultimately was a wonderful decision. So I graduated in 2009 from Rowan with a bachelor's in public relations. And you could see a couple photos here. This is not my uniform. Obviously, I was wearing the uniform of my late friend, Tommy Lowry. That is his Purple Heart. And in preparing for this show, it was kind of amazing to me. When I was a student, I would go telling his story. I would share pictures of him. That was his boot camp uniform, which happened to fit me at the time. And he never wanted to come and talk about it, but he wanted me to do it. And he would make me wear his uniform and explain to the students what a Purple Heart was. And I remember being terribly nervous on stage at Rowan wearing this, because I know someone was going to yell at me and tell me I was out of uniform, tell me I was doing something wrong, but no one ever really did, because they realized why I was doing it. And so that began my journey in higher education. The student veteran organization at Rowan at the time was kind of non-existent. There was with the matriculation rate, of people graduating, sometimes the student veteran orgs would fall through the cracks. So there was a woman there in the office, Melissa, who said, "Hey, why don't you become the president here at Rowan of our SVO and get it off the ground?" And I did. So those are some photos of me from, undergrad. And what was amazing to me was now at VBC, we share stories of service. And I was doing that in 2009, probably not realizing that that's what I'd end up doing for a living. So I think it's just wonderful how it's all come together for me. I continued on to get my master's at Monmouth. I didn't include any pictures there. But we have Trokan Fiuwu with us today, who also went to Rowan University. Oops, there he is. And we have him live too here, but I just want to give him a quick intro before I bring up his live feed. Trokan was also in the United States Navy. So hi, shipmate, how you doing? He was a hospital corpsman. He served for 6 years. He's a native of Liberia. And he also works for Operation College Promise, who will have director Wendy Lang join us a little bit later too. But heads up, thanks to Wendy for having Trokan on today. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing this so we can bring Trokan up and say hello and hear a little bit about what it was like being a student veteran at Rowan studying psychology and biochemistry.
I guess I'm on now. Hi, everybody. Hope you guys are doing great today. I'm Trokan Fiuwu. It's a difficult name, so don't worry about that. Trokan is fine. As Lorraine was saying, yes, I am a Navy veteran. I was in the Navy for about 6 years. I was on the ship and I worked in the hospital. I worked at the National Naval Medical Center in Bethesda. I worked there and worked in one of those specialty clinics. I actually got my undergraduate degree while I was in the military, because that was just due to determination and my commitment, because that was my main focus. So I had that done. And then once I got out of the military, I used my GI Bill to kind of further some post-baccalaureate program and try to do my master program at Rowan University. And so I got my master in biomedical science, and it was some emphasis within research. And so I did some clinical research and stuff like that. I remember when I did some post-baccalaureate program, I got involved with a little bit with the veteran services that I had on board. I was one of those veterans that was a little bit unorthodox, so I didn't really follow the main rules. You're gonna go to the veteran center, sit there, and kind of stuff. But I kind of both ways, because I wanted to know how can I combine both military way of living and also civilian lives. Because when you get out of the military, it's totally different from what you do on the outside. And so I kind of affiliated myself with a lot of people that were not quote unquote military, and kind of learn from them, learn new strategies and ways on how to studies and how to get in touch with the professors and those kind of things. And then also be with my veterans people also and try to get some information that I'm going to need in order to get my benefits and stuff like that. And it was so fortunate that when I went to rowing, I got in touch with Mission Continuous, and I did a program with them, and that's how I met Wendy. And it was just an awesome meeting when I met Wendy, because for me, when I got up the military, there was no guidelines for me. There was nobody to help me out. So I had to figure everything on my own. And so when missions continue to say, hey, we got somebody in Jersey, would you like to work with a person? And I found out what OCP was all about. I got so excited and interested because I wanted to be able to provide information to those veterans that were transitioning and also going to school, because I've had the experience and I have learned a lot from just on my own. But then with Wendy, I learned more. And so I became stuck. And since then, I've been stuck with Wendy. And we just been on this bandwagon. But it's been such an amazing journey. And I've really improved with regards to work-related stuff. And now currently, I am a professor at a community college in New Jersey, Mercer County. And so I'm trying to see if I can get hooked up to with Rowan College at Burlington, so that I can be able to teach some biology and microbiology there. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I think what I've learned and what I've experienced and how I have kind of juggled through life with regards to from being out of the military and living a civilian life and kind of combining everything, it has put me in a place, in a spot that I can be able to help other veterans. And especially with now we are doing remote learning, we're doing online learning. So these are things that I do at a college with my students. And so I think I can be able to help veterans in that route and how to encourage them and how to provide some resources that they can be able to use in order to help them learn remotely and learn online. So that's it just about me, but I'm here, Wendy all day, OCP all day. We get it.
Oh, that's awesome, Chokan. Thanks for that intro. What has been, you separated in 2007. So when did you graduate with your master's?
So I graduated with my master's 2016, because what happened was that when I got out of the military, I already had my bachelor's, but then when I got out, I worked for like a year or two at the VA Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And then from there, my goal was to go to medical school. And that was the main point why I got out of the military, because the military was not allowing me to do like my science courses, because I had to do labs. But most of the time, I probably have to travel, I'll be on duty. So that kind of took away from it. So that's what I got out. And then when I went, I had to do a post-bac program because I had to do all of the science courses that I had been taking. And so then I got accepted into Rutgers. And then I did that, but instead of just doing the post-bac, I ended up doing a biochemistry degree from there. And so once I left that, I was like, man, do I still want to go to med school and stuff like that? And then I was just kind of juggling. And, sometimes life throws a curveball at you. And then I just end up at Rowan University. And then I was like, well, I still love the science. It doesn't hurt. And so that's how I went. 2012, I got accepted into Rowan osteopathic medicine, but school with on the biomedical science part, and that's when I started. And then I was done by like 2015 because I took a thesis route, so I had to stay for an extra 2 years to be able to finish up my dissertation and be able to be able to graduate. And so that's how it took me. Okay,
wow. We just missed each other. I think I was working as a work study there, and I think I left in 2011 or so. So we passed like ships in the night. But I loved Rowan, and it's good to hear a little bit of your background. So since you're still working at the community college, you said, right, as a professor right now. So have you heard anything from your students or from veterans, with everything that's gone down with remote learning and closing campuses? Has there been any challenges that you've heard firsthand kind of as a professor?
Yeah, it was very challenging. I haven't had veteran students yet in my classes that I teach. I've had civilian students, but remote learning is a lot because the thing about it, as a student, you learn it on your own. Okay, and that's the thing about online school. You do everything yourself, and then once in a while, you get to talk to the professor, but sometimes everything is via online. But what we did at Mercer County was that we had a virtual classroom. And so we met on the days that we were supposed to meet for class. So if your course was scheduled for Monday, Wednesday, and you were supposed to be in class every Monday, Wednesdays from 5 to 8 o'clock or from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, on those days and on that time, you have to be in that virtual classroom because you're still going to school because that's what makes it remote. So you still have to be there. And so what we did there, normally we use Blackboard Collaborative. That's what I use most of the time. I normally don't use Zoom because sometimes Zoom try to throw you off, but I use Blackboard Collaborative. And all my students, I will be able to see them. I will be able to hear them. I will do the lectures online. They will see the PowerPoint slides as I go through the lectures. If they have any question, they will ask me questions and stuff like that. So that was a little bit kind of ease the students' mind, but it still has its downside to it because more than likely for the course I was teaching is more of science courses. And it's like you have to be face-to-face, but then you also have to do labs. And so we had to do labs online. And how can you do biological labs online with students that are just learning new stuff and they don't know what to do? So that was the most challenging part of it. But we try to make it in the way that the students can be able, they can feel comfortable, and we encourage them. We give them a lot of leeway. So we normally don't tell you, if you have to do your lab and turn in at a certain time, we kind of give you more an extension time to be able to turn your work in. And so what we do is that for lab, I will go on lab, I will do it virtually. All the students will be on virtually. They will see what I'm doing, okay? And some will do have kits, and then they will have to replicate whatever I do. And so once you're done with that, and then I put up I put an assignment, and then you have to fill in all of the questions that I've posted based on what we've done in class. And if those students, they have a question, if we come back the next class time, you will still able to ask me question and to be able to understand what you missed the last time. So that was the thing. And the other part was that it's taking tests, because now tests, they had to take the test on their own time and they have to be watched. But the caveat behind that is that you have to take the test at a certain particular time frame. And that can put a lot of stress on students, because even with students going to face-to-face class, exam time are always the most, horrifying time. Like you have the anxiety even to go in the testing hall to take exam. Now, can you imagine that you're doing it online now, but you have somebody watching you, you cannot move, you cannot shake. As soon as your eye leave that computer, the whole thing's going to shut down. So that alone can have an effect on the student. And so the schools is trying to figure out a way how we can better serve the students, and especially to our veterans that really do need us, because they need that support, okay? Because with veterans, we know that they need the support because they are into a new, different world that they are now usually used to. And so we kind of spend more time with our veterans. And what I normally do with my students that have like learning disability, or they have problem learning and stuff like that, we would spend more time with them. I would do like a one-on-one time with my students and say, hey, let's set up this meeting time. We're going to go virtually. Tell me everything that you need. You don't understand, I will explain it, and I will kind of quiz them and test them and stuff like that. And so just to make them comfortable enough and stuff like that. And then I was sending a lot of study guide materials and telling them, if you study everything on there, it's going to be on the exam, because I don't want the student to have the anxiety and it becomes a problem. And especially with COVID, people looking for food, and all those things, financial problems, how they're going to support their families and stuff. So it's a big thing, but we try to do the best we can.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a lot. And what you just touched on a second ago, I know we're going to get into that with Wendy here in a little bit, about the different problems on the home front that students are having, not only with adapting to virtual and digital learning and virtual labs and classrooms, but with family, food security, and other things. Trokan, thank you so much for coming on today. I'd love to have you back on the show sometime and dig in to your Navy experience there a little more. I always enjoy that. So we're gonna go to Francisco Beltran Bell now, and we'll see you in a little bit. I know you and Wendy are gonna hang out with us. Hi, Frank. How you doing?
Hi, how you guys doing?
Good. This is retired Master Sergeant Francisco Beltran Bell coming to us from New Jersey. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. I have a lovely photo of Frank in his uniform here. Love it. Looking sharp. How you doing? How's it going over there?
I'm actually doing great. Thank you for having me. This is my first time on with you, but I've been following you on Facebook throughout, your whole, ever since we actually met when you went down to Florida and then coming back to Pittsburgh. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you to coming on, and thanks Wendy for the connection here. Having new veteran voices on our program, it means so much to us. So we're looking forward to hearing about the Air Force. Why'd you join? Why'd you choose that branch? And then how does that translate into your student veteran experience and beyond?
Well, I joined the Air Force because the Air Force is kind of considered the Chick-fil-A of the military. Without bashing any of the other services, to me the Air Force was kind of like the elite. If you want to pursue an education, if you wanted to do some technical training, it was kind of like the best place for me to do it. So I wanted to go to school when I joined, so I needed to join a branch that would encourage and support my educational goals. And they did. I actually received my associate degree from the Community College of the Air Force. And for that, I have to thank a common friend that we all have. When I say all, I mean you and Wendy, and it was Kelly Parlante. She worked at BCC, and she helped me to get all of my credits together so that I can get the associate's degree through the Air Force, because you still need your core classes. So I got an associate's degree in human services from BCC, with taking the courses at BCC, but I got it from the Air Force, and that kind of started my educational, career. After I finished that, I was able to enroll into Fairleigh Dickinson University, where again, one of the things that I hear, the common values that we share, is that throughout our educational process, we always had somebody that helped us out, always had somebody that pushed you through. And again, at Fairleigh Dickinson, they had a guy, by the name of AJ Luna there. He was the Veterans Administrator, and he helped us tremendously. So I finished that in 2011. I finished my bachelor at Fairleigh Dickinson, and I automatically enrolled into Rutgers into a master's in public administration. So again, I did that through Rutgers in Camden. So, you always have somebody, again, that is going to help you out throughout your educational career. And there was a gentleman there. I think he might still be there. He must still be the veteran administrator. He was a retired Camden policeman. I don't know if you remember him. I can't even remember his name right now, but he helped me. And so I was able to complete a master's degree in public administration with Rutgers. And 2 years later, I applied for a doctorate degree in education with St. Joe's University. I did about a year of that, and then I took a break. And I'm really thinking about going back and go ahead and finishing that up. But what I can tell, our listeners is that, the military will encourage you, especially the Air Force, always encourage us to go ahead and, oh, there's a photo of me and one of the Chief Master Sergeant from Security Forces there. But, you know, the Air Force, you know, you always find either supervisors or commanders or somebody that you work with that would encourage you to continue the education. And I think that's the difference that, you know, that we all need and that we all can make on someone else's life. You know, now that we are, you know, at one point in our career, we can go ahead and encourage, you know, other people. Right now, I am the ROTC instructor for high school. And again, I find myself, you know, in the same position, encouraging kids to go ahead and pursue their education through the military or through civilian life, whichever way, you know, they choose. But, you know, always taking it, you know, one step above wherever they at. And I think that's where, you know, we can bring a lot of the help and a lot of the counseling. And I'm glad that, you know, you're in the position where, you know, you can help out, you know, some veteran students that might just need a nudge, you know, in order to pursue their education. So when they get out, they can be prepared for the civilian world. So that's kind of like my story. I don't want to go into my career because I did 30 years in the Air Force, and it would really take a long time to cover all of my career. But I can tell you that the last 10 years, I did recruiting and retention, and that's how I met, you know, Wendy, and that's how I got involved into Operation College Promise, and that's how I met Lawrence. So I thank you all for the opportunity to share this time. There you go. Doing the family days at McGuire, or doing, you know, the training.
Frank, I think we lost your audio. Can you hear okay?
I'm not hearing anything.
Are we still on?
There you go. We got you back.
There we go. There we go.
Phew. Well, I wanted to say, I didn't hear that very last part, but yeah, I was in preparation for today's program. I was looking back at some photos, and what Frank said about having a point of contact at every school that knows, you know, what's going on with whatever version of the GI Bill or whatever situation is happening at the current time is so important. He mentioned transfer of credits. Trocon got his bachelor's while he was still in, which I wish kind of I would have done. And Frank mentioned going to CCAF, Community College of the Air Force, and kind of combining all of those into an associate's degree. I lost, I think, like 20 or 30 credits upon transferring from a community college to a four-year school at the time, because, you know, it just was unclear, and transfer of credit, you know, rules and stuff were a little bit all over the place. So it's so important for our schools and the people in the offices at the veteran offices there. They're so valuable, and their expertise are appreciated. And without people like Frank, Wendy, and all the lovely people who are on today who work in those offices, couldn't do it without you. So Frank, thanks for coming on and talking, you know, about your experience with higher ed, and maybe on another program, we can dive into those 30 years and talk a little bit about what you did in the Air Force with diversity, inclusion, and all the wonderful programs you created.
I would love to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our special guest for today. Her name's Wendy Lang. She is a good friend of mine and a veteran advocate. I think Wendy is going to, you know, take the show on for herself, but I wanted to give her a special introduction. I haven't seen her in a long time. And back in 2009, when I was at Rowan, Wendy was that person that you meet that's a game changer. And Tro kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. Wendy taught me how to conference. You can see here, you know, in a conference hall, she exposed me to the life of, you know, the Senate. Took me over to the Senate building. You know, she would ask me when I'd come into the office, hey, you have a suit jacket? Head over to the State House and go do this. And it would be so normal to her, and I'd be shaking in my boots, you know, but she gave me my sea legs after getting out of the Navy, you know, kind of in this nonprofit world and in serving the veterans. And she was always so passionate. She taught me that a good suit jacket and a set of pearls is really all you need for success. Taught me a little bit about patriotism, you know, respecting our nation's colors there. taught me about having fun at work and how important that really is, because it looks like we might be having too much fun there. She taught me how to table. She taught me the importance of a very nice and well-organized table, down to the chopsticks. She made me line them up like little soldiers. But you wanted to have a nice table so you could get the attention of the veterans, so they could come over and get the benefits and the resources that they needed. And really, in all seriousness, though, she gave, she believed in me, and she gave me a chance to lead and to, kind of help fellow veterans and to discover truly, my purpose in life, and kind of aligned my future for success. And the most important lesson that I learned was how to manage difficult personalities, right?
Oh, yeah. You are
And
right.
how to manage difficult personalities and how to wear a cute hat as well. So all joking aside, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Wendy Lang. I'm going to bring you up on screen just for 1 second, W, to say hello to our audience.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Wendy Lang, founder and director of Operation College Promise. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about OCP. I'll go ahead and start your slides here, Wendy. Take it away. Good to see you.
All right. Good to see you. Thank you for Frank and Trocon for sharing their insight today. That's always so important. And never undervalue the value of putting the chapsticks in the proper order and color coded. Very important. Okay, a little bit about me. I am not a veteran. I come from an Army family, but I love all of my branches equally. I started OCP because I had a passion for helping veterans. And I really didn't know how to go about doing that until the post 9/11 GI Bill passed. And at that point, I realized a lot of what we're going to talk about today is schools were going to need help. They were not going to know how to manage student veterans. They were not going to know what their needs are. There was going to be a broad divide between the civilians and the military students. And most of those who were going into the role of serving these students really didn't have any background. So my initial plan was to see how I could prepare the 9 schools that I represented at the time to properly serve this population in a way that would ensure their success. So I started Operation College Promise also 12 years ago. In 2008, and it really just started off as a simple project with myself and one of my coworkers who happened to have a brother who was deployed with the Guard. And we were just going to use our time, resources that were available to us. We had no money, but what we did know was needed and what we could do was create informational hub on a website. And Charlene and I spent hours and hours and hours combing the internet at the advice of our friends down in Washington that were reiterating the same thing over and over again. Veterans were not getting the benefits that they need because they don't know what they are. So that was kind of our first crack at getting involved in this whole industry. And I was really fortunate to have the support of my executive director at the Association of State Colleges and also the 9 presidents that I worked with there. So the mission of Operation College Promise is to support veterans and service members to, through, and beyond higher education. So it's kind of like if you've ever heard the Soldier for Life model or Marine for Life model, it's a very similar model. And the thought process being, we need to help them get there. We need to help them succeed while they're there. And we need to make sure that they find their way to their career or their next part of their education. So major initiatives that we've put together since the beginning are, we published the first field guide for veteran service providers, which is just A to Z on serving veterans, both in New Jersey and across the country. We also did 2 research projects, and I'll talk about that like quickly, but I do want to mention it because we were talking about it before the meeting started, is that when I started the project, I think a lot of people were under the impression, there's still some that are, that student veterans were not higher education, they didn't have the higher education potential, or they weren't higher education ready. And they had joined the military because they weren't. And now we all know on this call that that's not the case, but I knew somewhere down the line, with billions upon billions of money being spent, that the question was going to be asked as to, we're spending all this money on this GI Bill, is it really doing anything? So we did these 2 research projects. I'm pretty sure Lauren was around for at least one of them. And the idea was, we are going to talk to schools who can provide data, and we're going to ask them what services they provide and make sure that they align with the services that we suggest and see how their student veterans were performing. And in both cases, hands down, student veterans with the proper support were exceeding their traditional cohorts by far. So that was really eye-opening to me. It was very eye-opening to the media. I know you'll see reports out there that will differ from this one. But what I will tell you is all the schools that participated in this report were schools that were dedicated, committed, and on point on serving student veterans. So it really does make a difference. A big thing that we do at OCP is the Certificate for Veteran Service Providers Training. And that's the only certificate program in the nation that is developed specifically for higher educators to support their student veterans on campus. It's an 8-module program, and it usually includes a trip to a military installation. We're going to talk more about how we're pivoting on that a little bit later, but let's just talk real quick because I think it's worth reiterating the traditional challenges that student veterans face, because from the research that I've been doing over the last couple of months, those challenges have not gone away and may very well be magnified in the current situation. So some of those are general acclimation to college or university, military civilian divide, being an older population. Lots of them are first generation learners. We like to say about 70% are first generation learners. I'm a first generation learner. I can attest, it's very hard to be a first generation learner. Managing the GI Bill, there are all these nuances under COVID. So that the whole management of the GI Bill is more complex than ever. Family responsibilities. Family responsibilities might be larger now. There might be people in the family that are sick. Employment and financial commitments. There's a lot of student veterans have lost employment, so now they're struggling financially. Mental health and traumatic brain injury. Well, we know right now that the studies are showing that student veterans are suffering depression at a higher rate than ever because of isolation. We talked about this a little bit early, but I'll reiterate it. Inability to attain appropriate transfer of credit. So that's still an issue. Every time we have a program, it's still an issue. And deployment and reacclimation to campus. That is going on again because of the deployments related to COVID. So the problem,
Wendy, real quick, that thing at the bottom that says the survey as of mid-March, 1/3 of surveys had lost jobs or were working less. What that was? Student Veterans of America. Okay, that was
the SVA. Yep, these 20% were concerned about buying groceries, and that's in March. No, where are we? July. So you have to believe that those numbers have gone up, and almost all of them were concerned about their education benefits because they have so much on their plate now. So the problem, I talked about some of the old problems and how they translate into the COVID era, but there are new problems too. So let's talk about those a little bit. Budget and staffing cuts. We were talking about this, Choke and I were talking about it before we came on air earlier, is that college and universities are struggling. Rowan, for example, lost $30 million in the hole, and that's a very entrepreneurial, well-funded school. So what do you think they're going to cut? Veteran service offices. So we're going to be facing situations where the Melissas that helped you, Lauren, or the Tom O'Donnells who helped the kids at Stockton, they may not be there at all, or they may get transferred to another department. But the fact being that there are going to be a lot of those veteran offices that are not going to be fully staffed anymore. So that point of contact that makes such an enormous difference may very well not exist. Financial aid. I believe what's going to happen is schools are going to start talking about lowering their yellow ribbon. That's something that they can change, and they can change it. Like I believe it's every year. So my feeling on that is they're going to be that's a cost for them every time they give a student a yellow ribbon designation. That's money out of their pocket with tuition. Also things like VA work study, that's been kind of a mess. I don't know if they've gotten that back on track yet, but it's kind of hard to do VA work study when you're not at the school. We talked about the complications with GI Bill payments. Enrollment at community colleges we believe it's tracking upward, and that's fine, but on average, and it's a little bit better here in New Jersey because we do have an articulation program, but overall, it's estimated that you lose 50% of your credits if you transfer from a 2-year to a 4-year, and that's potentially devastating. New and emerging priorities related to COVID. So schools are now dealing with this is both a financial and a staffing issue, right? They're talking about having to do testing, reduce capacity for academics because of social distancing, as well as housing and having to do things like contact tracing. Concern of state safety of the campus-based education. So let's say your school is opening. So they said last week, 63% of schools are going to open. I believe that's going to go down, particularly with what's happening right now. Student veterans may very well be scared off of going to campus. I would be, because not only are they potentially putting themselves at risk, but when they go home, they're potentially putting their spouse, their kids, their grandparents, their family, everybody at risk. So there's going to be trepidation as to whether or not they're really going to want to go to campus. COVID deployments. Excuse me for 1 second. Even before this, New Jersey had up-ramped deployments. Matter of fact, I think we have 2,000 or 3,000 that are in the process of coming back. And now we're deploying because of COVID. So now we're going to get back to, we were on a pretty good track for a while about deployment and coming back on campus and getting back into the swing of things. But now we have a whole nother issue of we're back to deployments due to COVID. Here at MDL, we've supported 3,500 personnel deployed across the country. So there's new deployments. So now we're back to our campuses remembering how to manage that. Do they have something in place that's actually still working? Will it still work for this circumstance? Because this circumstance is very different. Complications of moving to online for students. Already anecdotally, there are people who are saying, well, number one, I never wanted to take online courses. And number two, I don't have very good internet in Nebraska. And maybe they have internet, but maybe it's spotty. And what if they have to take their exam, like Trocon's saying? How's that going to work? And as a first-time online learner, I just took 3 courses online, and at Northwestern, I'm taking another one right now at Wharton. It's a transition. Now, the good thing for me is I can do it on my own time, but a student veteran, as Trocon was alluding, they're going to have to take the test when they have to take the test. So we talked about the technology changes, and then there's just the simple fact of the lack of interaction that they're used to having, not having that point of contact, not having the Veterans Lounge. And the Veterans Lounge, I always tell people, like, do the Veterans Lounge because it's the cheapest, most effective way to help your student veterans because they'll help each other. So what are we doing to kind of move forward in this pivot? So what we've decided to do after a long thought process is move to an online format. So this was not something I took lightly because I was always such a huge proponent of the in-person programming because it really made a huge difference in the connectivity and the friendships made and just the basic conversations over lunch, how people would share stories and share problems and share solutions. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So we've come up with a 3-pronged approach to moving forward with the OCP programming. One is an online staff training, which is a modified CVSP curriculum, very similar, but scaled back. We're putting together and actually modifying the online student orientations for the same reason. And lastly, we're updating our student mobile app, which is an app that we developed. First one we did was at UMBC, and the concept behind it was to have student veterans be able to cross-connect when they're off campus, which now more than ever is vital. In some instances, we link them up with the school. The app is linked with the school, so they can talk with professors and that type of thing. So those are the three routes that we are pursuing in terms of moving forward with programming that can continue to support student veterans in this environment. Because I think now more than ever, I think we were on a really, really good track for a while. But now more than ever, like this, the emphasis has changed. There's so much going on in the world, and people lose track of the fact that there are still people in Afghanistan. And with the COVID and the new challenges, there's going to be more need, much more need than I think over the last 5 or 6 years. So that's a little bit about what we are, what we do, and how we're moving forward with the pivot. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, Wendy, thank you so much. I wanted to let everyone know, I forget the number. It's like 800 people in 300 schools that you've served through College Promise since inception.
Yeah, so just under 1,000 professionals from 40 states serving like over 150,000 student veterans. So we've been all over the place. It really, the idea was just to do this for New Jersey schools, but it became so popular, and with the blessing of a $100,000 grant from ACE and Walmart, we were able to expand dramatically so that we could serve states in Texas, North Carolina, Oklahoma, California, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Maryland, San Diego. So yeah, so we've gotten around a lot, and it's been a lot of fun. I love working with the veterans. The veteran service providers on campus are dedicated, committing, willing to help, willing to share people. But again, unfortunately, I think a lot of them are going to be, moving to other positions on their campus, because this is going to take a back seat to COVID.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind putting your contact information maybe in the chat if anyone has a question. We do have some comments, and I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, I wish I had an app. When I was in school. I don't even think we had apps. I don't know, but Larry Woods, you said it's so good to hear the resources available to vets today. Not to sound like poor, pitiful us, but there were no resources back in 1970. In the 70s and 80s. Chris Perillo said, there's some comments there, and thank you so much for that engagement. So I wanted you to mention all the schools that are part of the OCP cohort or family. Just because you're in New Jersey, just because you're there and we're here in Pittsburgh, that means nothing at this point. I mean, everything that you're offering is virtual and online and can enhance and enrich programming at local schools and universities should they need it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it's been an interesting pivot, but I think what we're very fortunate right now is that the technology is moving forward at such a rate that we could be able to do this programming, I think, in a very interactive way, which it wasn't really available before all this, but technology is moving so fast that we could make it interactive. We could probably even do a military installation, like online virtual tour, like their public affairs people are so awesome. We could probably, we can get really good speakers now because we don't have the cost of having to pay for their travel and their food and all of that stuff. So that actually will help us in engaging more high level contributors to the program.
Yeah, I won't give away some of your powerhouse speakers. I won't spoil the fun. But I do know that I learned everything, about higher ed through College Promise. And I hope to get, Wendy's program out here in Pittsburgh. She sets the gold standard, as far as training and everything for student veteran population out there in New Jersey and nationwide. So thank you to Trocon, Francisco, Belchan, Bella, and Wendy for kind of coming on and repping Team OCP today and for your stories of service. I hope that you stay with us because we'll probably get some comments or questions as the chat goes on. I know, shout out to Betsy Montanez, shout out to Rod Davis. I see a lot of familiar names that are here. I don't think they have their video on, but you have some fans out there, Wendy. So this is wonderful. Hey, Betsy, she turned her video on. Hold on, Betsy, come Zoom bomb us for a minute.
Hi all. So I've been working with a lot of these fine folks for quite a few years. In 2008, I think, is when we first sat down to talk about Operation College Promise. And as Wendy said, we envisioned it for New Jersey. Since then, I've actually gone on to work for a couple of New York schools. And I can tell you, I was most recently the director of veteran services at NYU. NYU cut its Department of Veteran Services. They have no coordinator. And then COVID came along, right? So there's another situation now. These students, my student veterans were flocking to me. What do we do about this? What do we do about that? And inherently, I'm not going to turn my back on my veterans, but I don't work there anymore. I'm not employed. I was unemployed for months. I had to take care of myself. And so I think to myself, how many other schools is this happening to, and these student veterans aren't there? So I think now that OCP has pivoted to include these workshops, not only for administrators and faculty and staff, but for student veterans is going to be huge because there aren't going to be those coordinators anymore. What's the Film Academy just cut their veteran coordinator. I know the CUNY schools are trying to decide what programs they're going to cut. And as Wendy said, for a lot of schools, it's going to be the veterans office because they feel like, well, they have a student club, they'll take care of themselves. And it's really not that simple. And then another thing that I'm concerned about now as my veterans go back to campus, if they even go back to campus, which Wendy alluded to, most of us don't want to go back into the office or on campus because, we don't want to bring back this illness to our elderly parents, to our families and things. But another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of our veterans, a lot of our student veterans have service-connected illnesses, right? And these service-connected illnesses are making them more susceptible to COVID. We can go on and on about burn pits. What does burn pits affect? Your lungs. This is an upper respiratory infection. So bringing a student veteran onto campus, putting them in a hybrid model where they're in 1 week, out 1 week, there has to be advocates on these campuses bringing those things to attention, because the truth is, I know when I was at NYU, this is not on anyone's radar. And so I think it's really important for anybody who's in a position who can help tell schools how important this really is, how this training program really is. I just hope that you find yourself in that supportive position.
Oh, Betsy, it's so good to see you. And it's amazing. Your passion comes right through the screen. Hang in there in New Jersey and in New York. My thoughts and prayers are going out to you. I miss you guys all so much. Hope to get out there soon. And thanks for the work that you do. You've always been an amazing advocate. And it's so good to see you.
I miss you guys too. It's so fun. I have ProCon in a little while. And Francisco, I think I know you, so we're gonna have to talk later.
All right, thank you so much, Betsy. I think that's let me put it on gallery view. I can see, make sure we hit all our Jersey people who so wonderfully gave some time today. I don't see anyone else. We're gonna pivot to some local schools. We have a couple of students from Pitt here with us today, one from Duquesne. So let's get queued up here and see who's next on deck. It's not Wendy again. Is Brandon here?
Yep, right here.
Hi, Brandon.
How's it going?
It's going good. I remember you from when Sean and I led the event there at Pittsburgh Public Theater last year, right?
Yep, that was a great event.
Yeah, and I have the same photo here with you and the infamous Pittsburgh Terrible Towel.
Absolutely.
Was that in Jordan on your deployment?
Yeah, that was an American base in Jordan back in 2016. So it was a while ago. It flies. It was just over 3 years ago now.
Yeah. So for our audience, we're talking to Sergeant Brendan Satterley of the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. He was infantry in National Guard, and you can see here he had that deployment. Tell us a little bit about when you got out, how you chose the school that you're going to. I believe it's Duquesne, and what it was like, your transition, and where you are now.
I'm actually still in currently for the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, and my contract's up next year, but I think I'm going to re-enlist. I'm even thinking about going active duty in public affairs in the Army as well after I graduate Duquesne. I'll be graduating in December at Duquesne University for sports information and media. It's kind of like sports public relations. And I'm just trying to deal with the day-to-day right now with the COVID, and taking classes online, which for me, they haven't been too bad. There's not, like somebody mentioned earlier, like we don't have to go out and do labs. A lot of my stuff's online, and I had a class earlier today with me for 3 hours every day. It's a 3-week course, and just trying to survive this and do what I can and hopefully graduate in the fall.
Is that when your expected graduation is, in the fall?
Yeah. One more semester. It's been a minute. I'd been in school for a while, but finally finishing up, and I cannot be more excited, even though might be a little bit tougher to find a job right now in the media world, but I don't know. I'm optimistic about everything. That's
good. You sound pretty optimistic. I recognize that tone from when I was about to graduate. It's like, I'm ready, it's time for this to happen. So being in the Guard, do you use TA? I haven't been in the higher ed business for a while. Are you on tuition assistance, or are you on GI Bill? What do you use?
My post 9/11 GI Bill just expired. So I'm actually in a time where I'm trying to figure out what are my benefits and how am I going to afford last semester? Because I know Pennsylvania has a program called EAP which is, I think, covers almost full tuition for Pennsylvania schools. But I'm not sure. I'm trying to get some more information about that. And sorry, what was your question?
Well, yeah, I was just saying, what benefit are you using? And then I was going to ask you, like, with the changes, I guess my main question is, with everything pivoting online, I know at some point they kind of leveled out the BAH as far as remote learning versus brick and mortar learning. But has that how has COVID affected you as a student, as a veteran? Are you experiencing any of these kind of, issues that we've talked about a little bit about having trouble learning from home, or, the financial difficulty end of it? And how can we help?
To be honest with you, I mean, I've been doing pretty well during this pandemic. Classes honestly became easier online for me. That's not to say that it's more difficult for others. I think it's just what I'm studying right now. It's very doable online. I can interact with my professors. All my classes are online. And I mean, sometimes I'll miss a class or two. I wake up late and I have to drive across the Birmingham Bridge to go to class. And now I just wake up and maybe I'm rubbing my eyes in the morning when I'm waking up in class, but I'm there. And I don't know. Some of it's been difficult because online learning can be different from what I'm usually used to. But then again, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to be optimistic about everything. And I think my grades are better now since the pandemic starts. So I know it's a miserable time right now for everybody, but again, I'm just trying to make the best out of it.
Yeah. Do you feel like like I was mentioning earlier, school classes gave me some structure, gave me some purpose, gave me something to, to work toward a goal. Do you feel like that feeling exists for you still, via online learning and,
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not sure like everybody else, but I'm like a lot of us are bored at home right now and I'm just trying to find things. I think I beat Netflix. I've watched everything and I'm more, every day I'm thinking about graduating at this point and thinking about my future. And there's so much downtime that I can research or see different jobs out there, see different opportunities. So when I graduate, I have an idea what companies I want to apply for, what positions I would like, or if I would like to go into active duty. But there's just a lot of downtime right now, and I'm trying to use it the best I can.
That's smart. Because my next question was, with a graduation coming up, what's your next step? Do you have some irons in the fire? The career field is a little wonky right now. So it sounds like Wendy was mentioning 2 through and beyond, our duty as veteran service providers to not leave you kind of hanging like, all right, you graduated, see you later, good luck. So, what does that look like for you? And you mentioned a little bit, about what you expect to find, but are there services or have you connected with anyone that has been helping kind of navigate the uncertain field for you?
Yes. I mean, there's different programs out there that I reached out to, and there's a lot of people like the Duquesne Veterans Organization has been great. I talked to Don Acamando a lot, and he's been part of this. And pretty much I'm here because of him, because his newsletter he would send out every week or bi-weekly has given us all the information that we can need at Duquesne. And then there's also people in my department that I've worked with I have an internship. I had an internship in the spring at Duquesne. And I'd work different basketball events, doing, I'm sure different public relations and public affairs, if not working the social media accounts and all that kind of stuff like that. But I mean, no, I definitely see, there's definitely tons of help. It's there. That's, I think as a veteran today, you have to use the benefits that are awarded to us because like, I forget who mentioned earlier in 1970s, this wasn't a thing. There was not many benefits. So it's like you're doing a disservice if you're not using them and at least trying and putting your name out there because there's tons of people. I mean, military service members now are glorified as they should be. And there are tons of programs and different ways that you can find help.
Yeah, you're so right. Well, it sounds like you're connected to the right people. I know there's a great group over there at Duquesne we partner with them every year, doing the breakfast on Veterans Day. So we love them over there. Good luck to you and upon your graduation. And if you need help navigating that gap in funding and you can't find any answers, our friends at College Promise or, somewhere here in Pittsburgh will find the help for you. So you keep us informed, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Sean, before you go, Brandon, Sean, I'm sorry. I didn't ask Sean if he had anything that he wanted to add. I know he was the one who had reached out to you, Sean.
No, I'm just so happy to see you, Brandon. Happy to see that you've been having success since your performance in A Few Good Men at the Public Theater. And I guess the one thought I had was, as looking at the job market, if there doesn't seem to be any opportunities, would that make you lean more heavily into going into active duty?
It's I like to get into sports media, public relations and stuff. So there are jobs, and I mean, sports aren't really going on right now. So I'm not sure if anybody's hiring in the media world. There's a lot of the media world is very popular now. So into my back of my head, I'd like to go either active duty, or I think I'm an infantryman right now in the National Guard. If I would switch to public affairs in the National Guard, or I go active duty for a few years to get more experience and see what the Army can show me. But yeah, I mean, I'm just in the summer class when fall semester starts, and then September, October, I'm really going to hit the grind on finding opportunities out there for after I graduate.
Awesome. It was great seeing you, Brandon. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody should know Sean's the man. He's helped me out with so much, and I appreciate you, Sean, man. Great seeing you too.
Appreciate you, man.
Aw, what a cute bromance. No, I'm just kidding.
He's the man.
Thanks for coming on, Brandon, and thanks for hooking that up, Sean. We agree. Sean is the newest member of our team at Veterans Breakfast Club, and we're going to keep him, right, Todd?
Good to know. Thanks.
Todd's muted.
Yeah, I'm muted, but I'm looking at the grid here on the Zoom side, and I see we have about 4 generations of veterans joining us. And I was thinking, Brandon, something you said triggered this thought that the benefits that veterans have enjoyed have really waxed and waned over the years. When Roland Glenn was getting out of the Army, the GI Bill was a new thing, and it was quite generous, or unprecedented, really. And but then when Ken Rosicki got out, or when Larry Woods, I see, or when he got out of the Air Force and came home from Vietnam, it was very meager educational benefits, very, very meager. I mean, shamefully deficient. And I wish I had the exact, I wish we could, I could do some research and come up with a comparative chart of what the different generations, the kind of benefits that were available. And I don't know, I don't want to hijack your program here, Lauren. I know you have other people who want to speak, but would you mind if I asked Larry Woods if he could remember what his benefits were? Sure. Larry, what were your benefits when you got out of the Air Force in the late 1960s?
If memory serves, I got $165 a month. No, $125 a month, which barely covered minimum credits at community college. So if you went to a 4-year school, it really didn't cover anything. And I will say that, and that's the reason in my comment, I said, I don't want to sound like poor, pitiful me. I am eternally grateful for the benefits I did get, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have gone to college at all. And when I went to the VA, or down to the federal building to try to find out about benefits, I had a VA counselor who's giving me the information. And I remember, because I was going to go to a trade school, because I figured that, I wasn't at the top of my class in high school. And I had been told by a guidance counselor I might get into a small state school. So I never thought of myself as college material. And I remember him looking around the room to see if there was anybody near us. And he said, look, I'm not allowed to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because you guys have gotten screwed. He said, don't go to technical school. You'll end up with a piece of paper that's worthless if you ever change your mind. Go to community college, get your associate's degree, and then transfer. You can use that anywhere. And that's the route that I went, and got lucky to meet some other people there, just advisors, had nothing to do with the military. And as a result, the guidance counselor that told me I might get into a state school, I ended up graduating from community, transferred to Carnegie Mellon, and then later got a master's degree from Penn State. So I guess I must have been able to handle college. But, you know, but I mean, and my story
Just
is
him.
not and my story is not atypical. It's not
Larry,
atypical at all.
so you said $165 a month. Would that have covered 2 years of community college, or
No, that was 4 years
4 years?
altogether. If you figure out the tuition, but when I went to Carnegie Mellon, it didn't cover a third of the
Okay.
tuition.
Okay, I guess that's what I was
So I had
asking.
to do, yes, I had to do student loans and work study programs and everything else to supplement. And it didn't cover anything for books or labs or anything like that. I mean, it was just credit hours. It was either 125 or up to 100. It got increased during the time period some, but
Okay.
it was real. You were right when you said meager. It was meager.
What is the post 9/11 GI Bill? What kind of benefits do they provide in comparison, Brandon, or anybody who
It's
enjoyed
much
them?
more robust. I mean, poor Larry, $125 a month. Geez, that, you know, I probably go to dinner and spend more than that sometimes. That's terrible. My God. There was post 9/11 GI Bill and then the 2.0 version, but the major difference was the addition of allowance for housing and a book stipend. And then the amount that you got for housing was based on the zip code. You know, so if it was a cost of living was higher,
Right.
say in New York City, then that would reflect in the BAH. But they would pay tuition and fees and housing and a book stipend rather than just $125 a month for whatever.
And they would do that for all 4 years of higher education?
Yeah, so it's 36 months of entitlement. And then if you used more than one benefit, like if you combined benefits, you could get a maximum of 48 months of entitlement. So it's not like a yearly thing, Todd. It's like,
Got it.
it's like a months of entitlement type of thing, but a
Right.
much more robust benefits package than poor Larry had. But I'm glad you made it anyway, Larry.
Wonderful.
As I said, I'm not atypical. Anybody that came back during that time period had exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's to keep us honest and to keep us grateful. That was a nice and welcomed sidebar, Todd. Thank you so much. We have 2 more guests and about like 19 minutes left. We have Chuck Howe and we have Jacob Snyder, both from Pitt. I'll let you guys flip a coin. Who wants to go first? Does anyone have anything else to do? You have a class or something? Jacob.
No, I don't. Sure, I can go. Just to add on to what you were saying, it's based off 36 months. And if you have 1 day left in that month or whatever, you can apply that towards the semester. For myself, I think it's about $2,000 just my housing stipend that I'm getting for Pitt, and plus all of my my college.
That's amazing.
Tuition being paid.
I graduated with 1 day of entitlement left.
Yeah,
it's crazy how that happens. So I don't have any fun photos of you from your service, but why don't you tell everyone, you know, what branch of the service you joined, when and why, and a little bit about your experience at Pitt and being a student veteran.
Sure. I enlisted in the military in 1996 as a military police officer. I spent 20 years in the U.S. Army, retired in 2016. I spent 3 deployments in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq, 1 in Kosovo, a year in Turkey, and 6 months in Panama. Pretty much the reason I joined the military was because I had no aspirations or interest in going to college. School just really wasn't something that interested me. I did a lot of sports. I was interested in team concepts. I liked wearing uniforms. I liked physical activity. So I thought the military would be a good fit for me. And it turned out to be a great fit for me. You know, I enjoyed it so much that I decided to make a career out of it. But unfortunately, you really can't retire when you're 38 years old. So here I am at 38. I didn't even, you know, and my mentality about college was the same through my career. You know, to me, the places I was stationed was people who went to college were people that weren't working hard enough because they weren't busy enough that they could take time off to go to classes with, you know, a rapidly deployable units. So when I got out, I had no education. I spent 6 months doing security guard manager. And I realized that wasn't something I was interested in. And I had talked to my fiance about going to college, and she said, well, what's keeping you from doing it? And I said, well, I don't know if I'm cut out for that. I don't know if I'm capable, because I had never tried it before. And just one day I put together an application and I applied to Pitt, and they came back and said, you're accepted. So
yeah, and I've heard this before, and it always boggles my mind. Someone like you with 7 or 8 deployments, you've been in a war zone, you've been, in the military, and applying to college scares you. I mean, it's a whole different world, right? Like, how are you, the bravest man that I've heard speak in this week, like, how are you scared of applying to college? But it's a common, factor that we've heard from student veterans. And why do you think that was for you? Just kind of because of the unknown?
Well, I think the unknown too, and sometimes depending on your branch of service, it can create that stigma that if you're enlisted, you're kind of like the lower rung, individuals. You're not an officer, so you're not really in charge of anything. And people who are, who have degrees that are officers are kind of higher level, or higher enlisted people have college degrees. So I was never around people who had college degrees. I'm a first generation college student. And when I sent that application in and they said you're approved, I pretty much had a panic attack in my living room going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to do this in 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
Well, I got to class. I was coaching football at Franklin Regional, and I decided maybe education would be something I'd be interested in. I enjoyed history, social studies type activities. And after about a semester of that, I decided I would not want to be a high school teacher. But I did know that I really enjoyed history, political science, those types of classes. So I changed my major to history full-time with a minor in political science. I'm about to enter my last year. I'm doing pretty well. I got a 3.98 GPA. I'm applying to Duquesne University right now for the master's program. And I've been, so many opportunities have came to me through working with our veterans program at Pitt, because guest speaking appearances at the Legion, Memorial Day services, Veterans Day services. I had an article featured in the Times, talking about that, the Tribune, about the program that we started out. And I was hired as a veteran mentor at Pitt. They started a new program for that, so I'm employed by the university. And yeah, if you would have told me 3 years ago that I'd be sitting here talking about my experience, there's no way that I would have believed you. But it's been a blessing so far.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've thrived in the academic world. A 3.98 is something to be really proud of. And it sounds like, I know Pitt has a great reputation and a great program. So I'm glad, that they've been able to support student veterans at the level that they have. I'm not sure if Ariana's here with us today, but she's the director over there of Veteran Services. I know we're about to talk to Chuck. Now, which one of you I forget, who is the president right now of the Student Veteran Organization at Pitt? Was it you or Chuck? Oh, we lost your audio, I think.
It's me.
Oh, okay. Hi, Chuck. I'm going to pivot to you in 2 seconds. I'm going to wrap up here. And then we have some fun photos of you from the Navy. So we'll end strong with a Navy guy. Hold on, let me just mute him real quick so I can say goodbye to Jacob. Jacob, I lost you. So I will welcome, there you are. I can't hear you. Oh, there you are. Sorry about that, just a little hiccup. I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking a little bit about, being a student veteran and being brave enough to share that fear with us of applying, telling us where you are now. And maybe you could come back again in the future and tell us a little more about your service and your multiple deployments. And we can kind of gather your veteran story as well as your student veteran story. Does that sound good?
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Have a good one. Happy 4th.
Thank you.
All right. So our next guest here, Charles Howe. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And here he is, fellow shipmate, he served from 1997 to 2001 as an avionics technician, and there he is. Looks like he's working on some sort of hydraulics. How are you today, Chuck?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for sending over the photos. I'm loving it. I still don't understand why there's airmen in the Navy, but you know, who am I? So please do tell us, you know, when you joined in 97, you were kind of like me in peacetime, joined in peacetime, and then probably, you know, went into wartime there. What was that like for you? And then your experience in higher education transitioning and how you found Pitt and
Yeah. So I wasn't the strongest student in high school, so I decided that I'd join the military because I didn't really want to go to community college, which it's ironic because I did go to community college after the military. But so that was kind of my decision there, like, oh, I'm going to do 4 years and go back to school, and you know, life happened and things didn't really work out. But I really enjoyed my time in the Navy. I think more so now as I look back on it than at the time, because at 18, 19 years old, I don't think I was ready to work 13, 14, 15-hour days. But when I think about the job that I did, like it was, I mean, working on the flight deck's really cool. So.
Yeah, cool and very dangerous. I see you were on the USS Abraham Lincoln. I spent some time on the Nimitz. I've been up there a couple of times, went to the bird's nest, you know, to watch them land as part of like my orientation on the ship. And it was scary as hell. So I give you mad props for working up there. You could lose a head or a foot or an arm pretty easy up there. So kudos to you for that, and obtaining second class petty officer while you were in only 4 years. That's a big accomplishment too.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was pretty dangerous. I think after a while it just becomes a job though. And sometimes I look back and can't figure out, especially as tired as I was walking around after 13 hours a day, how I didn't do something stupid. But
yeah, you gotta be really, you gotta keep it tight up there for sure. What in this photo, I see your two chevrons there. What's hanging behind you, just real quick?
Those are the cranials. Like in the first picture, it was what I was wearing on my head. It's like a flight deck helmet, basically.
Got it. Okay, there was kind of a glare there. I couldn't.
Oh, because they're reflective because there's day shift and night shift, so the tape is reflective.
Got it. And these are my favorite. These are classic here. Cracker Jack uniform. I love this photo of you. It's perfect. So after you got out of the Navy, you joined, I guess, the Carolina Guard, or
yes.
How did that work out? How'd that transition go?
I knew I wanted to go part-time. I didn't want to go back active duty. And so I was initially considering Air Force reserves because, you know, I worked on jets. Air Force has jets. I could not get the Air Force recruiter to call me back though. I guess they don't really have a hard time meeting their goals. And I was ready to do something. So I went to the National Guard and said, what can you do for me? And they got me into an Apache battalion, but I was ground maintenance. I wasn't actually working on the Apaches like I worked on the jets in the Navy. So
okay,
that was the idea. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So how long did you stay in the Guard?
8 years. The idea was initially I was going to go to school. That's what I wanted to do part-time. But when I joined the Guard, they made me go back to AIT, which is the Army's version of A school. And when I got out of AIT, we were just a few months from going to Iraq. And then when I got back from Iraq, I got offered a full-time position out there long after in the federal technician program. So school didn't work out while I was in. And then I extended for 2 years for the promotion to staff sergeant. And I did not like my new unit at all. And I decided I was going to get out. And I talked to my wife, and I could have gotten a job at like Caterpillar or somewhere like that, because my full-time position on the Guard was basically a diesel mechanic. They call it surface maintenance mechanic, but that's what it is. And so I could have gotten a job at Caterpillar, but I really wanted to go to school. And I talked to my wife, and she said, well, if that's what you want to do, I'll support you. And so I started at the local community college in Raleigh, North Carolina, Wake Tech.
So are you a native of Pittsburgh? How did you manage your way back here to the Burgh?
So from community college, I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and graduated. I'm a history major, much like Jacob. And I was a philosophy, politics, and economics minor, which that sounds fancy, but it's only one minor. It's not three. And I wanted to go to law school, and Pitt let me in, and I was trying to make my decision. I was on the wait list at a couple schools, and it got to the point where it was time to pay my seat deposit. And so I went all in. I said, I was born in Pittsburgh. I have family in Pittsburgh. I'm just going to go all in and we're going to go back. And that's how I ended up at Pitt.
Yeah, it sounds like you truly found your footing there. Tell us about, your student veteran organization and, how that works on campus and your interaction with fellow veterans, and your role there leading that up.
So things were going pretty strong, and then COVID happened. We would typically have functions, like there was volunteer functions that we could go to. We'd also have like social functions. We go to Mario's in Oakland a lot. And so like I said, everything was going strong and participation was kind of high. It tailed off a little bit there and in the fall because of finals and whatnot. But we started off strong in the spring, and then it just kind of died off because we really can't do anything right now.
Are you still keeping in touch, like with Jacob, or different? And how many student veterans do you have kind of in your alliance there?
I think there's 39 registered in our little portal, and we have a little group me. I don't know how many are in the group me off the top of my head, but we've got several. So we kind of try to keep in contact via group me and whatnot.
Okay, great. So you're staying connected with some of the veterans there, and has all your learning gone online, like totally, like the other vets were saying?
Yeah, which was a little interesting for law school, though. I think the most successful, I had one class where we still had a Zoom class so you had to be there. And for my personal style, that worked better because I love to procrastinate. So in the other classes where it was just a recorded lecture, it's like, oh, I can listen to that tomorrow. And I never really truly fell behind, but I felt super behind because I would always just put that off as long as possible.
Yeah, I know about the art of procrastination a bit myself, but that's okay, right? Because we always come through at the end.
Right.
Tell me about how your experience in the military either did you a service or a disservice in the world of higher education and as a student.
I think it kind of cut both ways. So we'll start with like the disservice. Particularly having been in 12 years, being a leader, it was really hard for me when I first got to community college and there were students texting in class, and it's like, it would almost distract me because I want to yell at them, but I know that's not my place. But I think where it helped me is I approached school as a job. And that's one of the things that I think I struggled with when we transitioned to Zoom classes was I'm always at home now. I would even do my homework like in the library or find a study space or whatever, because it was a job. I'm going to show up to class at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., whenever it starts. And then between classes, I'm going to go study somewhere, and I'm going to get my job done. And I think that it's the military that instilled that into me, because I certainly didn't have that discipline at 18.
Yeah, and so that's yeah, definitely. I wasn't a good student in high school either, and I think that's really interesting. I remember cutting class like in senior year or something, just being a terrible high school student. But college was a whole different ball game. Maybe it's because the military was paying for it and you had that like fear instilled in you. Like if you don't, they had a mediocre recommendation. I think it was like you had to maintain a 2.5 or something
Right.
on voc rehab, but I don't know what it was. I always felt more motivated too. And I ended up in the same seat that you're in, as the head of a student veteran organization on campus. What does that mean to you? And have you experienced this a lot, kind of being shoved into these leadership positions, either willingly or unwillingly, in your experience in higher ed?
Yeah, I think I'm more of an unwilling participant usually. Like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Is kind of the question I get faced with. Because at UNC, I was the vice president of the student organization down there, and here with being the president, I showed up, and this was my first year of law school, and I knew things are going to be tough. So I'm like, I'd kind of like to help out a little. But then there were just vacancies, and like, oh, well, we need a guy to do social media. So I started at social media. Then the former vice president had stepped down. And so like, I just kind of, somebody needs to do it, and nobody else, like, I'm like, please, somebody run against me. Let's see what happens. But yeah.
Yeah. How about in group projects in class where I mean, you get together 4 people and you're all supposed to work on this whatever project together. I'd say 9 times out of 10, they would just all turn and stare at me. It was like, I almost wanted to stop talking about my military service at one point, right, in class, and just be the fly on the wall and be the one that doesn't hand in my stuff in the group project on time, Yeah,
no, I agree. Most of the time it ended up, but I think I took a more active role in that because one time I was like, I'm gonna let the other students lead this because I have the leadership experience. These are, 20-year-old kids. They need the leadership experience. And then we got a B. And this was a community college when like a B was the end of my life. Because in law school, it's different. A B, I'm happy with that. But
Yeah.
so I was like, yeah, never am I letting them lead again. I'm leading because I'm getting an A. I'll do all the work if I have to, but I'm getting an A.
That sounds familiar because once you're in that position, then you have no choice, right? Because if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. So veterans are non-traditional students. Were you a little bit older? You said you were a little bit older than a lot of your fellow students. What did that feel like for you?
At first it was a little odd, but then a lot of the soldiers beneath me in the guard were college age. So I had at least had experience working with a significant age gap. So it got comfortable after a while, but it was a bit weird. I felt like the kind of the odd man out, like everyone was staring at me like, what's this old guy doing here? But
Yeah, I've heard that a time or two for sure. Well, thanks for coming on today. Welcome back to the Berg and congratulations on being accepted to law school. And please keep in touch. We want to definitely stay in touch with our friends over at Pitt. Join us for a program sometime and encourage maybe your cohort of student vets over there to connect if they're feeling isolated or if they need they want to chat with any of us vets here at VBC. Thanks, Chuck.
all right, thank you.
Thanks. So it is 2:30 and that's going to kind of bring us to the end of our program. I know we've had a lot of wonderful things in the chat here. Todd, did you want to say something real quick about the 140 campuses? I'm not really following. I haven't been reading it.
We just had a little side chat about the University of Maryland. Since 1949 has had a remarkable program where they offer college classes to those who are active duty military. And I think at its peak, the University of Maryland had 140 satellite campuses around the world. So during the Vietnam War, they would have campuses in Vietnam. And I think some people here on the program today, Chris Perolo took classes at University of Maryland, and now they call it University of Maryland Global Campus. But at its peak, I think it had 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 students around the world, probably the largest university in the world at the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about this great history that the University of Maryland had with the U.S. military until one of our vets brought it up at one of our breakfasts last year. And I quickly looked it up and was very impressed. So that's what I just.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that low soft lob right over the plate. Because the first class I ever took when I got to Japan was through the University of Maryland. And it was tough to convince my chief to let me go. Because not only was I, had to work in the boiler room, but I was a woman. So how are you going to handle all that, Lauren? So yeah. I had to put in my my CHIT, as they call it in the Navy, CHIT, another strange Navy term, and proved to them what I had to do was take one class. And if I take one class and I get an A, then you guys have to let me go to school. And that class was Introduction to Kabuki through the University of Maryland in Yokosuka, Japan. And guess what? I got an A. And that was the end of that story. So I kind of took the easiest thing I could, to make sure I nailed that A. But it was indeed at Maryland, University of Maryland, in Japan.
Well, that's great because that will be our next VBC at Home Live event. We will have you can give us a whole lecture on Kabuki theater and the history of Kabuki theater in Japan. Oh, yeah, we'll be riveted. We'll have Larry, you'll play a role. This will be great. This will be great.
Oh, Todd. All right. Well, I don't know if I remember much because I think, I was sleep deprived and half alive, as they say in the Navy. But.
All right. Well, maybe we won't do that. But we will do the VBC Coffee Hour tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And everybody is welcome to join us. And I do hope you do. And then we'll also be back here on Monday, July 6th for a program. And what do we got going on Monday night? Oh, yes. Oh, this is interesting. Bill Boswell, is he still here? He's going to be one of our guests. We were going to do JAG officers on Monday night, stories from JAG officers. And we have quite a few, and they have quite a few interesting stories to tell. So
awesome.
One of our JAG officers said, I never defended an innocent man. So I'm curious to hear about some of these stories. I hope you join us on Monday, July 6th at 7 p.m. And before then, I hope you all have a good holiday weekend and a wonderful 4th of July. Thank you so much to Jacob and to Brandon and to Wendy, and to Trocon, and Frank. Thank you for joining us. This is really neat. I do hope you join us again sometime.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow morning or next
Hi,
week.
Allison.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all.